Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here and welcome back to another episode of The Verdict. For those of you guys that are new to this, then The Verdict is of course my opinion-based series, and today I want to share my opinions on Destiny 2's new Gambit mode. I had a chance to play it last week at E3 with TwoSixNine, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. Of course, there are a lot of questions right now surrounding Destiny 2's Forsaken expansion, things like, is it going to bring Destiny back to where it needs to be, some of the other things like that, and of course a lot of that information they plan to share with us over the course of the summer through a series of live streams. But Gambit is one thing I can talk about right now because it's something I've actually had a chance to play, and genuinely I had a lot of fun with it. It's a mode I could see myself playing a fair bit, so I thought I'd use this episode or this video as a chance to talk about different aspects of it, talk about some of the things that I enjoyed the most, and sort of how I feel like it would fit into the wider game as a whole. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you do, then a like would be super appreciated. Of course, if you have any questions, by all means drop them down below, but let's just start at the very top, just to sort of set the scene in case you guys maybe haven't heard about Gambit, maybe we can kind of like a little bit out of the loop. So this is effectively their PvE/PvP competitive co-op mode. It blends these two modes into what I would kind of effectively describe as almost like an arcade experience. It's quite snappy, you jump in, rounds don't typically take too long, it doesn't really feel like it drags, and you can get in, have some fun in these sort of condensed short periods of time, and then just straight as soon as it's finished, you can then jump back in and do it again. So the way that it works is that it pits two teams against each other, 2 teams of 4. You start off in your own map, you won't see the other team, and you'll fight up against waves of enemies. They'll spawn at different locations. The game mode will call them out. It'll be like enemies spawning at the beach, enemies spawning at the forest, different things like that. And upon killing them, you then collect motes. You then take these motes and bank them into this chamber in the center of the map. And then by doing that, you increase the progress bar, which when full will spawn something called a primeval, which is this boss, and once you defeat the boss you win the round. Of course the other team that you don't see are doing the exact same thing, and it's kind of a competition to see who can do that first. But the PvP side of it comes in because during the match this portal will open up where you can go into the other player's world, so to speak, or their map, and you can basically invade them, and you can then kill the team to slow their progress. So that's where the PvP part of it comes in. It's sort of like optional PvP, because if you're not really that way inclined, you can just think, you know what, I'm just going to sit here in my lobby, in my map, and focus on killing the enemies and kind of collecting motes and working for my team. Meanwhile, some of the other slightly more aggressive players you're playing with might decide to go and do that. So it actually caters to both groups of people, and I think that's really cool because for me, I'm not really a PvP person. Like, I will play PvP if I need to get something done, if I need to complete a bounty, if I need to kind of get a weapon, something like that, but it's not something I typically choose to do. I like aspects of PvP, but I'm not really going to sit there and be like, I'm going to go through and just do PvP matches back to back. That's just not me. I'm a PvE guy. I do raids, I do strikes, I do nightfalls. That's the kind of thing that I do in Destiny. But I really appreciate this mode because the little bits of PvP that I do enjoy, you kind of get in Gambit. I get that sort of little taste where you can get the competitive side, you jump in, you go against players, and the whole like invasion mechanic is just something that I really enjoy. I've played Dark Souls, I played like World of Warcraft in a PvP server. The whole notion of like jumping in and messing with someone's game, kind of like the Division's Dark Zone, things like that. I kind of like that. Maybe it makes me a bit of a troll, but either way, it's a lot of fun. So that's basically the premise. But talking about some of the different aspects, so first up on the enemy front, when you begin a game, the character will then show you this token. Now for the purposes of our demo, we only played against Cabal in this foresty looking map. Obviously there'll be different enemies, different maps, but we had one single setup. You then go in and then they spawn in different locations. Now you'll have your general mix of, say, trash mobs paired with some of the higher level enemies and sometimes high value targets. Killing all of them will drop motes, but of course killing the stronger enemies gives you more motes. And if you take down a high value target, it spawns an absolute ton of them. It's kind of like a little sort of like pinata, if you will. They just explode everywhere. You grab them all and then you run to the center. So enemy wise, obviously there'll be a lot more variety round to round for us. I mean, I only got a chance to play, say, 3 rounds because we were there after hours recording, but if you bear in mind the way that you would actually play it, you go in, you complete your round, you go in the next time, and you'll always be fighting different enemies because they'll obviously rotate. So that was pretty cool. They always drop in small enough groups so you kind of deal with them, and then by the time you've dealt with them, the next lot are coming in somewhere else. So it sends you sort of darting your way around the map, so you're constantly moving. And just in general, it's quite sort of quick paced and it's quite fun because obviously once you've killed them all, you go back and deposit your motes. On that front, when you collect them, you then bank them in the middle. And of course, as mentioned, your general overarching goal is to kind of fill up that bar. But when you hit certain thresholds, the actual game will say, you've got enough for a small blocker, you've got enough for like a medium blocker. And if you then go and bank your motes, you basically drop an enemy in the opposing team's map, and it will then lock down their cylinder and they can't bank motes until they destroy that. So again, kind of tapping into that notion of messing with the other team, it's really cool because when you start playing strategically, of course, when you first start out, you're just going to grab motes and bank them as you can, but when you really think about it competitively, you're going to want to start banking up more motes, because if you just drop in a small blocker, then the enemy that it drops in is kind of something you can just dispatch with one rocket. Whereas if you collect more motes and then you drop in something bigger, then that gets to the point where it will take a little bit more time, it sets them back more, and ultimately it just slows down the whole flow. So they're important things to think about. Now, the invasion mechanic itself, that is really, really good fun. Only one person from your team typically goes over. I'm pretty sure only one can go over, because when you go in, the portal closes. I'm not sure whether if everyone jumped at the same time, you could all do the same. But the point is, it seems like only one person goes over. And when you do, it's a lot of fun, because I went over and I was trying to sort of be a little bit stealthy, because I was sneaking around and trying to wait till the enemy team were fighting a lot of mobs, and then just went up behind them and fired some rockets. They do get a warning that you're there. There'll basically be the announcer that will say that, you know, the enemy has invaded, so you can kind of look out for them. You have got a red glow around you, so you're quite obvious if they see you. It's not like you can sort of blend into the background, but at the same time, if you skirt around the outside of the map and people are busy focusing on enemies and ads and stuff, then it's quite easy to sort of take advantage of that. So that part of it is a lot of fun. Of course, once you get to the end of it and you've got the primeval bosses, they're basically just like big sort of enemies that you typically find like at the end of a strike or something. Maybe not even that caliber, because they're not too strong. The one that we fought was just like a big Taken dude, or like a big Cabal dude with like a machine gun and stuff, so they weren't especially difficult. They just got a lot of health. There are some mechanics whereby if somebody invades and they kill you, then that increases the health of the primeval, or it kind of heals them a little bit, so you of course need to watch out for that. So there are definitely some mechanics that can, again, even if you're on the final phase, the final push towards the boss, the other team can still turn the tide in battle. But generally speaking, they're just sort of tanky bosses that you have to just pile bullets into. It's not really like a mechanic thing, more so it's just like the boss is here, kill it as quickly as you can, and you win the round. But the cool thing about these is, I sort of mentioned at the beginning, it feels a little bit like an arcade mode, and I really like that, because it's definitely, from my time playing it, quite replayable. We played the same mode, same configuration. I think it was 3 or 4 times back to back. I think we got 3 or 4 matches in, and I wasn't getting bored by the end of it. Now, do of course bear in mind, it's quite hard to talk about replayability from like a genuine sense when you only get a chance to play it at an event for like an hour, because of course replayability really comes into once I've played the game for a week, a month, you know, 6 months. Like, am I still going to want to play Gambit after 6 months of playing? And honestly, I don't know, but all I can talk about is based on my brief time playing. It's a really cool mode, and because it doesn't drag on, like, none of the matches felt like I was looking at the clock. Like, for me, sometimes I'm playing PvP matches, I'm like, why is this not over yet? Whereas with Gambit, a lot of the time the match would end before I'd even, you know, comprehended what was going on. So I definitely really enjoyed it. I can see myself playing it a fair bit, provided, of course, there's good loot for it. Now, I'm assuming this is, of course, an endgame activity. I'm assuming that when you play the real one, you'll get genuinely good loot. And if it is a means for, say, an endgame grind, if you can actually do it to get some genuinely viable gear, then I could definitely see myself playing this time and time again. In the same way that some people might go out and sort of grind Crucible for gear or grind strikes, I would be more than happy to play Gambit over and over again for some gear. So hopefully they'll even kind of include some exclusive gear. That would be really cool if there's like a Gambit set. That would give me even more reason to play it. But for the time being, that's pretty much it. So what I will say is, of course, on the opinion side of things, most of the stuff that I played, super positive. My main concern, of course, is loot and variety. I want to make sure that, you know, again, while we play the same configuration 3 or 4 times back to back, I do want to make sure there are plenty of different configurations. We, of course, have some new enemies being introduced in Forsaken alongside the existing ones. So assuming there's configurations for all of those and then maps that support all of them as well, then that should definitely be cool. If, of course, it ends up being one of those things where there's only, say, 2 or 3 maps and then, you know, limited enemy variety, then it could start to get stagnant, but obviously that part we don't know because I haven't seen the full extent of the content available. So that's one thing I definitely want to find out more about, but for the time being, that was kind of initial impressions on Gambit. You of course saw some gameplay throughout this video. If you guys have any questions, again, let me know in the comments down below. But for the time being, thank you for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.